Welcome back to Legal Matters with the American Law Firm and WIFR. I'm Mike Garrigan with 23 News, and our guest is attorney John Hansen with the American Law Firm. As I mentioned earlier tonight, Legal Matters is a half-hour informational and news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics of interest to State Line viewers. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen. They'll provide you with free information regarding your issue. So call now and throughout the next hour. Our opening statement tonight concerns a couple of topics that affect many of us and are of great importance for anyone going through them. One is divorce and paternity law. The other involves planning for a loved one's estate. Attorney Hansen will guide us through the important aspects of each topic to make sure the crucial decisions that need to be made are also the most informed decisions. Before we get started tonight, however, I'd like to remind our viewers of the multiple practice areas that the American Law Firm concentrates in. American Law Firm is a general practice law firm that concentrates in divorce and family law cases, bankruptcy matters, personal injury claims, criminal, traffic and DUI issues, wills, trust and probate matters, and real estate and business transactions. So please feel free to call tonight and discuss any of these practice areas with attorneys standing by. And first of all, John, for those that are watching for the first time, can you tell us a little bit more about American Law Firm?
Yeah, we're a law firm based in Rockford, and we're located near the intersection of Mulford and State. And we are a general practice firm, like you mentioned, which means we practice in many different areas of law. And one thing I want to mention is there's a reason why we're called the American Law Firm, which is kind of an unusual name for a law firm. Yeah. But it's because we believe in the American values of honest, hard work, respect for individuals, no matter their background, no matter their problems. And we live that out in our practice, and we believe every client should demand that from a law firm. So that's why we go under that name.
Okay, and a lot of people out there have never probably gone to a law firm. They go to doctor's office, so they know what's about that. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what would happen if they did need help with American Law Firm.
Yeah, you know, I understand it's tough to visit a law firm for a first time, and you can be nervous and anxiety-ridden and fearful, basically, of what's going on. And I understand that, and we understand that at the law firm. So we offer a few things to try to make it easier for people. First off, we'll offer free consultations to the public in any area of law that we practice. Secondly, we offer simple flat fees for attorney's fees, so clients can know up front how much a case will cost. And a third thing is we offer payment plans in some cases for clients in a financial bind. And so we try to meet them where they are and help them reach their goals with certain tools like that.
Make them ease the stress, because it can be stressful. And you mentioned one of the areas of the firm focuses on divorce and paternity, otherwise called family law. In what ways are divorce and paternity cases different from one another?
Sure, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but also want to remind people that we're answering phones right now, and people can call that number at the bottom of the screen. Attorneys will answer and talk about their questions in this area or any other area. Phones are going to be busy too, so just keep trying to get through. We're going to be there answering calls until 7:30 at night, and if they don't get through till then, they can call tomorrow too. But back to the question, divorce and paternity law are pretty different in court, and a divorce case will deal with a lot more issues than a paternity case will generally. So divorce case will focus on custody of children, maintenance or alimony as it's called in some states for a spouse, division of assets, division of debts, things like that. Whereas a paternity case generally focuses on custody of a children, because a paternity case will focus on children born outside of a marriage, just girlfriend, boyfriend, or some combination. So you'll see a lot more substantive stuff in a divorce case. They both deal with really emotional issues, though, very stressful things, and we're sensitive to that. So we'll meet with people and first talk about their lives and see what kind of goals they have in mind.
Let's delve in a little more with paternity. Now, why is it important to establish the paternity of a child?
Well, in that situation, it's really important for the father and for the mother. And first I'll start with the father, because if you have a baby born outside of a marriage, just girlfriend, boyfriend, for example, and you're the father, you don't have any enforceable legal rights until you go into court and are recognized as the father by a court. And so that's called a paternity case. Until then, you may not be able to enforce any rights to see the child. And for mothers, it's beneficial to file a paternity case because that's how they can set up child support or health insurance benefits from the father. Even citizenship can be arranged often through a paternity case if there's immigration issues and things like that. So dual purposes.
Now, I think many of us have seen the Maury Povich show, so we know how they determine a paternity case. How is it with American Law Firm? How does it work? How do they really determine the paternity of a child?
Well, usually it's two ways, and I say it's either paperwork or lab work. And so if you're a father, for example, and you were at the labor and delivery room in the hospital when the baby was born, you can sign some documents they give you. And one of those documents may be a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, otherwise known as a VAP. If you have those documents and we take them into court, you can be recognized as a father that way. If you don't have those documents for various reasons, we can have a DNA test set up, whether the mom wants it or the father wants it, either way, and the courts will approve that, and that's how we find out who the father is. Just be aware that if you're the father or the mother, just having the birth certificate and the VAP form, it's not enough. We have to take that into court to get recognition, and then the rights come upon a person after that.
You have to make sure it's right.
Right.
Obviously. Well, child custody disputes seem to be one of the most notorious elements to a family law case. Now, John, are custody disputes handled differently in a court case for a divorce case compared to a paternity case?
Well, they kind of go parallel. And a snapshot of the process, if there's a custody or a visitation disagreement, is as follows. If there's a disagreement, the court will often order mediation for the parents to attend first. And it's mandatory in most circumstances. And the parents will go and talk to a mediator about their differences and their goals. And that may resolve the problem if they come out with an agreement. If not, the next step the court will order, whether it's a divorce case or a paternity case, will be a guardian ad litem attorney appointed. And this is an attorney for the child, basically. And it's someone who reports back to the court what they think is best for the child. And if that doesn't solve it, then eventually there's a trial where the judge will listen to our evidence and our arguments and then make a ruling upon that. So that three-step process is similar in both cases.
We're running short on time of this segment, but I want to get to grandparents. What kind of rights do they have compared to parents?
Right, very common question. Grandparents do have enforceable rights in Illinois for visitation privileges. And so if you're a grandparent and your child has had a child and you want to enforce visitation, there's certain things you have to show. In a typical situation, your child, who's the parent, is either absent or incarcerated or deceased, God forbid, and that's when you would make a claim in court for visitation. And we would need to show that the child's not getting some benefit they would get if the grandparents had visitation, and that the denial of visitation is unreasonable. So a couple things to show. And I want to point out, it's not just grandparents. Great-grandparents can enforce this right. Uncles and aunts too in some cases.
Okay, and you mentioned guardianship a moment ago. What do you tell the viewers exactly what guardianship is?
Right, you know, a grandparent or a family member can also have parenting power through guardianship in some cases. And there's guardianship of the person and guardianship of the estate. I know we're lacking a little time here, but guardianship of the person is basically taking care of their well-being, and guardianship of the estate is taking care of their finances. So that's another channel we can pursue sometimes.
Okay, more to discuss coming up, but right now we should tell you that attorneys are standing by right now to answer any legal question you might have. The number at your screen, you see it there, it's 815-394-1776. Viewers should call the number right now to speak with one of the American law firm attorneys to discuss their options. When we return to Legal Matters, we'll switch gears and tackle the topic of estate planning.
Picture experience. Legal experience in many areas of law. Dedication. Giving full attention to each client and their individual legal needs. Affordability. Offering simple flat fees and payment plans. Now picture the American law firm. Call the American Law Firm today at 815-394-1776 for your free consultation.
Welcome back. It's Mike Garrigan and attorney John Hansen from the American Law Firm, continuing to talk legal matters that affect many state liners. And if you want to talk to an attorney right now live for free, just call the number on your screen. An attorney from the American Law Firm will be on the other end to answer your call on any legal topic. And once again, it is a free call. And John, you mentioned that the American Law Firm handles estate planning. How does that work for the clients? What does it entail exactly?
Well, it generally entails preparing certain documents for a person. And the documents are addressing what happens when they die, and also can address what happens if they're just incapacitated at some point. Typical documents will be a will, durable power of attorney, trusts, and transfer on death instruments in many cases. So what we do is we sit down with somebody first and talk about what their wishes are and their goals, and then translate that into doing a certain number of documents for them.
And you mentioned documents. What kind of documents should clients have when it comes to estate planning or advanced care planning?
Sure. At the law firm, we do refer these as advanced care plan documents because we're basically planning in advance for someone's care down the road. Some typical documents would be a will, like I mentioned, which can establish who your heirs are, who your beneficiaries will be when you pass away. Also, we'll appoint an executor who's in charge of making sure your will's followed through with. And for parents, we'll put in a guardianship provision in many cases that says if something happens to the parents, here's who I want to be the guardian of my kids. Also, a durable power of attorney for healthcare is pretty common, and that's when you're still alive but you're incapacitated. It appoints someone to be your agent to handle your healthcare decisions while you're not able to communicate with the doctors. We'll also do trusts in some circumstances where someone will have certain assets we put into a trust, and it will allow for the direct transfer of those assets when the person dies to their heirs. All depends on a person's background, so we'll sit there and talk to them about their assets and their wishes and then put those into a certain estate plan package.
Let's talk a little bit more about the trust and what role they play in the estate planning process.
Right, trusts are talked about a lot, but I'm sure there's a lot of confusion about that. The main trust that most people will have, and the one we're talking about tonight, is a revocable trust, otherwise known as an inter vivos trust or a living trust. And this is primarily a probate court avoidance instrument, meaning the law in Illinois says if you die and you have real estate or a lot of wealth, in order for your heirs to inherit that property, they would have to go through probate court. If we put assets into a trust and we put the right assets into the trust, then when the person dies, those assets can directly pass on to their heirs. No judge, no court, and nothing's tied up for a while in the court process. That's kind of what we're talking about with the revocable trust.
Sure, and now we have a better understanding of trust. Let's try to get a better understanding of another thing that viewers may have heard of, the transfer of death instrument. How does that work?
Right. This was created by the Illinois legislature, or allowed us to be used in 2012 by the Illinois legislature. Other states have used it for a long time. And it's basically attached to real estate. So if their main wealth is really their real estate and that's it, we don't need a trust. We can actually do a transfer on death instrument, which attorneys call a TODI, a T-O-D-I, and that will allow for the direct inheritance of the house to the family without court, without all that process. And I think the legislature recognized that it was a little bit overkill for a probate course to be necessary just because a house was needing to be transferred. So we can prepare a TODI and have that done and have a direct transfer of the asset that way.
Okay, well, we appreciate your time once again and your insight on several different topics. And once again, lawyers from American Law Firm are standing by right now to take your call no matter what the topic. And again, they will give you advice for free on that phone call. And if it is a busy signal, try again. Lawyers will be there until 7:30 tonight. We'll be back with a closing statement when Legal Matters returns.
Our country was founded on a Bill of Rights, which set a bold standard for the protection of individual rights, a standard set for the rest of the world to follow. At the American Law Firm, you also have a Bill of Rights as a client. By offering free consultations, simple flat fees, and payment plans to our clients, we deliver effective legal solutions to your problems and goals. Call the American Law Firm at 815-394-1776 to learn more about how we represent our clients and how we can protect you.